What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle, and in today's video, this is aimed at our new friends on the Steam demo and just new players in general. This is a step-by-step guide on how to beat Exemplar with a new profile. So I've already done a boss guide for this encounter, which I'll link down below if I remember. But there is something special about doing this the first time because it is way harder for a variety of reasons. So if you are just getting into the game, this is your first run or second run, third run or whatever, you don't have much at your disposal. So your team is going to mostly look like this. These are the first 4 characters you get. They're your starting characters. There aren't really any items besides the base items. And this fight can be pretty challenging without having access to a lot of skills or different items. We're talking about how to beat it with nothing. And it may seem hard at first, but I promise you can do it. Just takes a little bit of planning, and watching a video like this might help you, as well as checking out the wiki. Shouts to the wiki team. And so, without further ado, what is Exemplar? Exemplar is the cultist boss that you fight right before the mountain. He's pretty much the last gatekeeper. So to get to the mountain, you need a boss trophy. So you have to kill a lair boss at some point and put it on the wagon. And you have to beat Exemplar. So huge, girthy, massive shoutouts to Thick. This video is his idea, and he hooked it up with a save file that was right here. He's like, hey, this is a good idea for a video, and here's the save file for it. It's like, okay. So you should sub to Thick if he ever comes off hiatus. And so with this setup here, he did a really good job setting this up. And so we'll go through the characters. This is the starting team, right? This is the unusual suspects. These are the starter 4. And you can see they don't even have a lot of abilities unlocked. So this was his first run of this profile. So that's what makes this pretty important to know and understand here. So the most important things skill-wise that you will need, we're going to swap into them here, is you need to give one of your first hero shrines, ideally your first, you give it to Man-at-Arms, so you get Bellow. This move is very helpful. This move is really good at disarming Riposte, which Riposte can do some pretty good damage from Exemplar. Your other shrine should go to Plague Doctor, and that's so you get down to Indiscriminate Science. If you can get 4 shrines, you can win your first run on a fresh profile. I don't say easily, but you have a really good chance because you have access to this, which is a really good heal. This takes off all of the nasty effects like Weaken, Blind, and Stun. Those are the things you do with your hero shrines. And so you can use various abilities and stuff. We're probably going to, let's see, since we're all Wanderers, we'll swap into IS. Blinding Gas is pretty good in this fight, but there are a couple ways to approach it that we'll talk about. So we'll talk about what the boss can do, and then we'll talk about the turn-by-turn thing. So Dismas has no choice. He has to run the basic kit. And Barristan, we're going to swap out. We can honestly do either. I'm probably going to swap out Rampart for Hold the Line. This is so just in case, for whatever reason, you know, Man-at-Arms hits rank 4. He can do this out of 2, but this also gives him block. So that's a little more important than this. And then Grave Robber is actually our tank. Go figure. Just got to set her up for it. And this is what the noisemakers are for. And you can see she has her starter stuff. Because of this, the Corrupting Cleaver, you're not guaranteed to get all these trinkets. It helps if you do, but you're not guaranteed to get them. This gives her Poison Darts more consistency, so that's why she has it. And you'll notice everyone has Blight Resist. So Blight Resist is a very important thing in this fight. If you can almost never be blighted, then you actually have a really good chance of not dying unless Exemplar goes back to back, or you fight an Evangelist or a Herald or something like that that will close out a kill. And so with the stats and stuff, you notice we're like, oh, you can't see it here because my camera, hold up. Sorry about that. Let me shrink it to. All right. So as you see here, our Blight Res is capped. It's not quite cap, like 120 is the real cap, but you know, over 100 is good enough. And then 45 on her. Hopefully she doesn't get hit by Blight. 101 on Dismas. We have another Blight trinket. And then 85 on Barrison. So having Blight resist is very important. As for other trinkets, you know, whatever you can put together that's good, just go ahead and throw that on. The chance of burn, this was for the Sprawl because Thick went through the Sprawl first, so that's why this is on. The chance of burn in this fight is possible, but it's not high. So I'm going to swap this out for HP. And then you get like minus crit, so debatable if it's better or not, but the plus bleed's important because the Evangelist that it spawns can also bleed you. So it's a really good setup here. And the other thing Thick was looking for were ceremonial drums. These are an in item that boost your move resistance, so your tank can't get pulled out of 4, because I haven't seen what this team is in terms of order, but I'm pretty certain that Grave Robber is in rank 4 because she's supposed to tank here. And so with the other stuff, let's see. Combat skills, okay. The rest of the stuff, this is all like, you know, just random. Whatever good trinkets you find, like boss trinkets and stuff like that, are good. I think, what's our wagon have? Nothing. Okay. And so for items, we have a few combat items we can use. So these are all pretty good except the pouch, and the glimmers won't matter here. But noisemakers are probably the most important thing if you can find them. These are just a combat item that adds taunt. And that might not seem like much, but a lot of this fight is controlling what the boss does. It's actually, I would say it's probably the best control fight in the game, where if you understand the mechanics, you can really tame this boss by dictating what it does to you. So it's really cool once you understand it. So we have noisemakers on Grave Robber, we have noisemakers on PD, we have bear traps on Dismas. I'm wondering if this is for like take aim bear trap for some extra damage. I mean, I could see that. And then we have anti-venoms on Barrison. This is just in case any blights sneak through. Spring water is a consideration. You're not going to have healing salves and triage kits on your first profile or your first playthrough of a new profile. So this is pretty much the only other healing item we have access to. Stress isn't too big of an issue in this fight, but it is worth considering putting it on. But let's try it without it. Let's see what happens. Okay, and so we get to the very end of the region, right? This is the right before the inn, before we go to the mountain. Went through the entire place. We can actually see the entire journey here if we really wanted to, but yeah. And so now that we have everything set up, let's start the fight.
A parody of human outline. It must be destroyed.
Let me double check if my volume is okay. Making sure. So when you fight this boss, there are two ways to approach it. The first is to kill the altar. This is pretty hard with this team. It can get it done, but you know, if we look here, this thing has 28 HP and block, and our range options are pretty good, but not amazing. And so personally, usually avoid this. If you have a team that has a lot of good rank 4 reach, you have, you know, Highwayman with some damage trinkets and sharp shot and stuff, or you have Iron Swan Hellion. There are a lot of ways to blitz down the altar. I usually choose not to. The reason is, by the time you end up killing this thing, you know, you get through the block, you get through all the HP, you get through the resists it might have and stuff. By the time you do all of that, he's probably going to eat it anyway. My gut is telling me to ignore it this time, so we'll see how that works out. We got lucky with Grave Robber going first. We're gonna pop a Noisemaker. Grave Robber is in rank 4, and this is so he is able to hopefully not get hit by the fall. So what happens with this thing, we're not gonna be able to see its skills. It has 5 attacks. 4 of them are aimed at you. 1 of them is a buff. So the attacks it has are Prelude and the Fall. That's the 1-2 punch. That's Prelude pulls your unit, hits you with Blight, combos you. The Fall eats the combo to give it worship. So if you can disrupt the Prelude Fall combo, you will take a lot less damage because you're not getting hit by Exaltation, which is what it does when it gets 2 things of worship. Now, the other move it has is called Rapturous Beauty, and that is just a damage move that I think inflicts horror and I believe vulnerable, plus more damage against you. So you really have to be a bit careful with that one, and it hits 2 people. Exaltation is the super move. If it gets 2 worship tokens, it hits 2 people for a lot of damage, and then it summons something else. The buff move that it has is called Pillar of Sacrifice. You can tell Pillar of Sacrifice is coming when whatever the non-exemplar minion is, so the altar, the cherub, the evangelist, or the herald, when they get 2 worship tokens, we'll see it when they start popping up, I'll point them out. When it gets 2 of those, it uses Pillar of Sacrifice, eats it, and then gets 1 itself, plus some buffs. Well, we got lucky. Grave Robber went first. We're going to use Absinthe here. And so the goal of Absinthe, if you can see at the bottom here, this move gives us 3 instances of Dodge Plus. And so what we're going to hopefully do, if the RNG is on our side here, is we have Taunt. So it is forced to attack us. So one of its 2 turns is going to be the Prelude at Grave Robber. And then we hopefully dodge it. Let's see. And the altar goes and starts buffing. It always gets 2 turns on its first thing, so it gives it this buff where its friends can go into stealth, which can be kind of disruptive. If it hits this, then you're forced to attack this, and it makes some really awkward situations. And then this is heal over time. So it heals for 3 life each turn, or each of its actions. So it gets 2 actions, as you see up here. So it's going to heal 6 HP this turn, and then it'll run through this at the start of next turn. And so with Heavy Man here, since everything's buffed up, Take Aim is really efficient in terms of damage and defense. So we're going to pop this for our first turn. And we also have dodge on a couple people and block here, so this will really mitigate some of these attacks. Yeah, there's Rapturous Beauty. We dodge. There's the Vuln, there's the Stress. The next attack is going to be Prelude. This thing has... It's not obvious, but each thing seems to have a cooldown. So it doesn't Prelude back to back, I think. I know it can't fall back to back. And I don't remember it doing Rapturous Beauty back to back, but Prelude and Rapturous may not have cooldowns, but I know the fall does. And so we have some options here. Man-at-Arms is really interesting because his turns are a lot of utility. So no one is comboed yet. We don't see the blue skull token. No one's comboed. I don't have to use Defender. I don't have to taunt or anything like that. And it doesn't have riposte, so we don't need Bellow, which means we can actually just swing on it this turn. There's an argument to bolster, to lower her stress, but stress isn't too big of a deal. A little bit of damage, but I mean, everything helps. There's Prelude, dodge. And then PD ends her turn. Can hit Grave Robber with another Noisemaker here. So it should do Rapturous next turn. And we're just going to start doing damage. A lot of, yep, there's this. This will run through pretty quick, thankfully, but it's a bit dangerous. So what I'm probably going to do here is, since we only have 1 dodge, it's a little bit harder since I can't see Exemplar's turns yet, but we're going to potentially guard Grave Robber here. So if the Prelude hit goes through, it should be the second attack. I'm going to assume that's going to do Rapturous first, or it might do Prelude first, but if it does Rapturous first and then Prelude second, and it hits her, then we will guard her with Man-at-Arms if the speed allows. But we're taking a big risk here by not using our second Absinthe. I think we should use it anyway. Let's be safe. Let's be safe. It's not like we can't rotate out and give, what is it, our
Excellent work.
what is it, our tank ability to someone else. You know, the fact that it can stealth is honestly reason to... We have nothing else to do, so we're buffing our defenses here. But the fact that it can... stealth is actually kind of a reason to try and kill the altar at first. But we just got unlucky there that it got the double stealth on turn 1. Okay, so it's pillar first. So we could have played around that.
The slow suffering begins.
And so we have some dodge here. He's our second noisemaker. Just so we have some defenses here. Some damage. These riposts are pretty dangerous. And if we got lucky enough to have Barristan go at the right time, we could bellow these off, but we didn't get that. And so we're not going to try and slow play it because we're that afraid of riposte. Like the way Thick set this team up, it's very defensive right now because we have block from stuff, we have, you know, dodge from our abilities, we have respectful procs, and this hits for like 10-ish, 10 to 14, something like that damage. And so since we have block, we're actually not that afraid of it, especially because we have a bunch of tanking abilities going on, which means that Plague Doctor can actually take this hit, and she's going to get rid of this last block token for us. Crit's very welcome. This prelude? Yeah. Okay, we got hit. That was a bit unfortunate, but it's okay. We got...
The fiend's strength dwindles.
We have Barristan coming up here, so we have our man-at-arms going. And so this is where understanding how this fight works is good. So since combo is active, this thing will use the fall this turn. It will try and do it on the comboed person. You can taunt it off of it, but since we have taunt on her right now, we're going to instead just defend. And so now man-at-arms is going to get hit by this fall. And he took it pretty well. He takes hits pretty well. And so since Grave Robber is under fire here, I think we can let her go. Because you still have to push damage. It's really easy to get caught up trying to... What is it? You know, keep the boss under control and stuff like that, but you still have to kill it. You have to do the damage. And so, kind of considering heals, but I think she's okay right now. So we're just going to push damage. It was unfortunate that poison darts got blocked, but you see here it's already melting pretty fast, right? So man-arms took that extra hit. This is probably a bolster turn, all things considered. So again, man-at-arms can take some punishment. We're good here. Gonna hit another tank aim. This will give us double damage or double crit for next turn. The damage over time is also very important to start checking the boss's death blow resist. So it's got 75. That's quite a lot. And we have a couple ways around that. One is damage over time. The boss takes so many turns. It takes 2 turns per round that we're going to constantly be putting the pressure on it to die. And then also we have access to Wicked Slice, which ignores 30% of death blow resist. So once we get this down to, you know, 0, we're going to start hitting Wicked Slice. But until then, we just push as much damage as we can. Actually, this might do more damage. I'm used to playing, yeah, I'm used to playing Sharp Shots so much. This is more damage. Okay, let's see. We got one more Noisemaker. And we could risk Audrey taunting this down. The affinity system, of course. Shouts to the changes. And then we're going to use our last Absinthe. I'm glad we saved that one. If it hits us with the fall, you know, that's just RNG going against us. And that's, you know, congrats to Exemplar. It did what it was supposed to. Okay. Hit a meltdown. Really should have took that Oasis water, but it's all right. We didn't need the anti-venom. There's so much blight res on this team that we should have took the Oasis water, but that's fine. And really, there's nothing else to do. It's got a ton of damage over time. It's already on its last legs. Just start swinging on it. Its chance of killing us is pretty low here. We're still comboed, which might go away this turn. Most tokens, pretty much all tokens, except like most of the special ones, last for 3 turns. So all the ones that are not orange, like worship and stuff, these usually have trigger conditions or they last indefinitely. But, you know, all your yellow defensive tokens, all the negative blue tokens, and combo all last 3 turns. So since this is round 6, I believe this is coming off this turn. It's either this turn, next turn. I'm pretty sure it's this turn. So after we take our turn here, there it goes. And then here's Wicked Slice, and there it goes.
Persistence will overcome even
So pretty clean in terms of how that fight can normally go. And I hope this was informative for you. The things to know, like I said, is really trying to disrupt the Prelude Fall combo, which, as you saw, we can dodge, we can defend, we can taunt to shift the damage elsewhere. And then also, it never used Exaltation because we were able to, it used Pillar of Sacrifice once, so that's where it got its other worship. But we did such a good job of not letting it get the second worship. It never used Exaltation, and it never summoned another dude. So that was very helpful. And then the other thing that really helped in the preparation, which I'm going to go over again, is the Blight Resist. So thank you, Thick, for really just giving everyone a ton of it. So we never really had to worry about this, because this is where the boss is at its most lethal. Is it hits you with Prelude, pulls you, you're disrupted, you know, your team's out of order possibly, and then you're blighted. The blight's like 6 damage. It's pretty nasty. So 6 damage a turn. And then it hits you with the fall, like it crits or it does, you know, 20 damage or something, and you're on death's door, and then you just bleed out. So that is usually how the boss picks up a lot of its kills. Getting rid of the blight actually takes out a ton of damage from this fight. So as you saw there, it still hit kind of hard, but we had a lot of block and a lot of dodge and stuff like that to compensate. But yeah, that's how you beat the boss with the starter team on a new profile. Again, you don't need all of the crazy stuff. Like if you didn't have noisemakers, like noisemakers enables the absent tank, but if you don't have noisemakers, you use Man-at-Arms, and you're just gonna have to eat some Prelude Fall hits at some point. You know, hopefully he Exemplar preludes someone else, and then you can defend them, so you kind of disrupt it for a little bit, especially because Defender has no cooldown, and that can be really helpful. But, you know, you may just eat 1 or 2, and that's okay. And so the other thing that's important is, like I said, the Blight Resist, but if you can't get the Noisemakers, then Anti-Venom, this is readily available. You'll find a lot of this going around. So if you, like worst case scenario, you get some of those. And then whatever damage combat items you have access to, or, you know, whatever else. Comet Shards, if you can find them, but that's it for the video. Hope you learned something. Hope it worked out for you. Let me know how you did, especially all you new Steam friends. We don't even know if the Steam demo is going to have this fight or not, but if it does, I got you. So thanks for watching. Thanks to Thick for the video idea and the save file. I'll see you next time.